And I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker. It's kind of interesting. So when you think about actually the shift to tenant centricity, you think about the relationships that need to be created, that need to be evolved between the landlord and the tenant. The conversations that happen have to evolve too. And the negotiation and how it happens has to evolve as well. And so we've got a gentleman who is, our next speaker is the former lead international hostage negotiator for the FBI. This is someone who's been in incredibly interesting and challenging situations where he's had to negotiate life and death to get people out of very difficult situations and bring them back home. He's also the author of what is one of the most impactful books on negotiation that I've ever read. We've had many people in our organization read it. It's kind of fundamental to how we think about sales and the conversations that we have with customers. It's called Never Split the Difference. It was a bestseller. I strongly recommend this book to anyone who is in a professional context, who has to have conversations that get to a positive result to those conversations. So if you haven't read it, you're going to have to pick it up. If you haven't read it, you're in for a huge treat in hearing Chris Voss come up here and speak. So Chris, why don't you join us on stage? And everyone, why don't you join me in welcoming Chris to the stage? Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So I'm going to hand it over to him.
Thank you. Well, with that kind of an introduction, I'm kind of curious to see what I have to say myself. All right, let me start with this.
Both carrying on a verbal love affair with the word hostage. Listen.
You do not hold people hostage or engage in ransom taking to get 100% of your way.
They're trying to hold veterans hostage to force Obamacare on the American people.
You cannot negotiate with a hostage situation.
We've got a group of folks who think that they can hold America hostage.
The president somehow wants to keep this hostage.
They've taken hostages.
No president should be held hostage.
Holding our government hostage.
Holding the U.S. hostage.
Hold the entire country hostage.
Hold them hostage.
Don't hold anyone hostage.
They took hostages.
Hostage taking.
Stop taking hostages.
They had to take the country hostage.
Whether or not it's correct to kind of use the hostage terms by politicians, when you see this, as somebody who's negotiated a lot, when you see what's going on in Washington, what jumps out to you?
Well, there's two things about that. You know, on a personal note, I like that they use the word because then it gives me a chance to be on your show.
I get it. You know what? I haven't been able to focus on anything. His company is called the Black Swan Group. That is the baddest-ass name I have ever heard. I love that. Now, what is the Black Swan Group? That's like the coolest. What is that?
Thank you very much. A black swan is something unusual that has a great impact, and we like to think that the way we negotiate has a great impact.
See? Isn't that
Cool, right? I like
All right. Yeah, and how often do you get a chance to tell a joke that makes Anderson Cooper laugh anyway, right? All right, so there's a business lesson in there. There's a lot of interesting lessons in there, actually. You know what a hostage negotiator really is? A practicing neuroscientist. You know, because what did I do for a living? As a hostage negotiator, I sold jail sentences. And I had buyers. And we invented this stuff way back in the 1970s. And it took, basically, in the last 5, 6, 7 years, even, find out that everything that we talked about in hostage negotiation actually followed brain science rules. And we were applying neuroscience rules, which is sort of beyond psychology, now that we can see how the brain actually works inside and the impact that we can make on what people do in their decisions, to get what we wanted. So, what was the neuroscience rule in that video? One of our sayings is, never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better. I'm going to hit on this a couple of times because I caught a little bit of one of the breakouts earlier, and Mike Franson, I believe, said something that really resonated with me. He said, you know what, sit down, you're trying to make a deal in commercial real estate, find out what's important to me, I'll find out what's important to you, you're going to discover some metrics that nobody realized were really important, and we're going to make a great deal. Right, sounds interesting. How do you do that? Now, I'm here to tell you how to do that. All right, first of all, Neuroscience Rule. Excuse me. You're up to 31% smarter in a positive frame of mind. Give that just a little bit of thought. Because only about a third of the room are naturally, at best, are naturally in a positive frame of mind. Only about a third of the room, maybe. And even then, it's hard to stay in a positive frame of mind on a regular basis because our brain is, in fact, wired to be negative. Now, there's an awareness of that in ourselves and an awareness in our counterparts to understand how that applies. But how could that be? How are we wired to be negative? Because we needed it to stay alive from the caveman days. What happened to the optimistic caveman? The optimistic caveman came by a cave and said, you know what? It's dark in there. And last time we went by there, Zog went in and never came out. But I'm an optimist. I'm going to go in too. And he got eaten. The pessimistic guy was like, I don't care. I'm not going in there. Those were the guys that survived. And it's still wired into our brain. So we're wired to be negative. And we got to have a way to deal with that. So we're not naturally in a positive frame of mind, but a 31% jump, that's no small jump. It impacts them, it impacts you. I don't tell that joke on Anderson Cooper. Jeffrey Toobin does not say, the Black Swan Group, that was the best commercial I ever had. How many times do you think I played that tape? He says, the Black Swan Group, that's the baddest ass name I ever heard. Where'd you get that? He does that spontaneously in the moment, and it benefits me. There's a little bit difference between what's appropriate and contextual for the moment, and being funny. You can't be funny. But you can have humor in the moment. It makes you smarter. It makes them smarter. It makes them more likely to reveal stuff to you or give stuff to you that'll work. It makes them think of things that'll work. Imagine if they were getting ready for that clip and Jeffrey Toobin would have said in advance, Black Swan, that's kind of badass. I'm gonna say that when we come on air. And they would have said, no, you're not. The producer would have gotten his ear and said, no, the C in CNN does not stand for comedy. We're not telling jokes here. But in the moment, he uses it appropriate to the moment, and it works. Here's some stuff that should scare you about this. It should scare you. They did a psychological experiment, neuroscience experiment. Knowing that you're in a positive frame of mind, can we fool you into thinking you're in a good mood? How would we fool you into thinking you're in a good mood? They took people, they asked them to hold a pencil in their mouth, said, don't let your lips touch it. You're smiling. Is there a hardwired connection between the muscles in the face, the nerves in the face, and the brain? Do they see the brain pick up anyway? They did. You can force a smile on your face and give yourself more mental capacity, even when you're angry. Another one that should scare you, and this has to do with some data from women, but be careful about your data sources, because this is on women, but it's as human beings. You got to be, when you see data, misinterpretation of data will cause some people to say, playing basketball makes you tall. Doesn't make sense, right? So I'll give you a couple of examples, and it's human nature data. It's not gender or age related. Women who are depressed, they gave them Botox to keep them from frowning. Instantaneous change in the mood, instantaneous change in the increase in mental abilities by not allowing them to frown. Is that because they're women? No, it's because they're human beings. The wiring that we're going to talk about, that I'll discuss with you, that hostage negotiators have been applying for years, applies because you're human. What does that mean to you? Is it cross-cultural? Well, I'm afraid the only limitations on this, it only works on people. Every hostage negotiation team in the world uses the same skills, the same 8 basic skills, which I refer to as the FBI 8. In my company, we call them the Negotiation 9. We've added 1. But the hostage negotiation teams in Tel Aviv, the hostage negotiation teams in Cape Town, South Africa, hostage negotiation team in Tokyo, Japan, hostage negotiation team in New York City all use the same skills. Because you're humans. It's the ultimate in cross-culture application, because we all have the same basic wiring. Regardless of gender, ethnicity, age, doesn't matter. The same basic human wiring. And, you know, there's a lot of discussion of the difference between generations, millennials this, Gen X that, Baby Boomers this. Personally, I don't care. You've all got the same wiring. And all of what we're talking about and all the different people that have spoken to you today have talked about improving the tenant experience, increasing the number of proposals you get out based on the exact same number of tours, increasing the percentage of proposals that are accepted. It is the application of these ideas from the very beginning that will, in fact, get you more business, get more done, same amount of time, probably less time, actually. These indirect approaches. When I was with the FBI, I oversaw hostage negotiation teams across the country. And I saw this emotional intelligence approach. We didn't call it emotional intelligence back then, but that's what it is. It's the application of emotional intelligence. I remember specifically, the team we had in Atlanta were really good at the skills. The team we had in Portland weren't quite as good. Guys in Portland, much more direct, much more argument-based, much more explaining, much more making the case. Guys in Atlanta took their time. Guys and gals, I use guys as a generic term. Guys in Atlanta took their time. Way more slow-moving than the guys in Portland. They would turn out on the same sort of hostage siege. The guys in Portland would take 8 hours to get done. The guys in Atlanta will get done in 3. Talk about saving time. So how do we do this? And let me lay a little bit more out about who I am. All right, so I told you that I was the FBI's lead international kidnapping negotiator. What did that mean? What that meant was any American got kidnapped anywhere in the world, it was my job to come up with a negotiation strategy to get them out of harm's way. I'm not talking about arrests by governments. The Koreans that were Korean Americans that recently North Korea released in anticipation of further diplomatic negotiations with the Trump White House, those people that came out, that would not have been something I worked. They were held by a government. I'm only working people that are grabbed by criminals and terrorists. So you might ask yourself, how often was Chris Voss busy in his job? Well, it's a big world. There are a lot of Americans doing stupid stuff. So I was fairly busy. Then one of the other things I needed to learn too is, and it's key to any negotiation, what is it to me doesn't matter. What matters is what is it to the other side. You know what a kidnapping is to the other side? Commodities exchange. To us, it's a horrible thing. To them, it's another day at the office. It's a job. It's a commodities business. Commodity happens to be human beings. But it was a commodities business. It was up to me to accept that. It was up to me to know the market price and the velocity of the market. What's the velocity? How soon did they need to get a deal done? What do they expect on pricing? What do they expect on timing? So it was a business. They have a division of labor in kidnapping. They have people that are in charge of acquiring the commodity. There are people in charge of transporting the commodity. There are people in charge of housing the commodity. There are people in charge of negotiating for the release of the commodity, and there's people in charge of delivering the commodity to the customer. Sounds like a business, right? How many of you guys see the movie Man on Fire? Denzel Washington, right? Who did he negotiate with in that? The Voice. The guy's job was to do negotiations. He didn't go out and grab people. That was his end of the deal. Haiti. I get a call one day, 12-year-old boy's been grabbed in Haiti. Now, what's the business model in Haiti at the time? It was a pretty cool business model. I was really impressed with it. And this is before the earthquake. Carjack a car with more than one person in it. Keep the car and one person, let the other person go. You've immediately handled all your marketing. You've notified your customer that you have a transaction to engage them with. Your notification's instantaneous. If they were riding in a car together, the person you let go probably knows to tell them that the other person got grabbed. Secondly, why a car? If they got money for a car and they got money for gas, they probably got money for ransom. You got a car in Haiti at the time, you got more money than most people. You've pre-qualified your customer. Now, here's the part that I love the best. What happens if you grab the one person in the family that nobody likes? You got a car. No downside to this transaction. I was really impressed with it. So we get a call that a 12-year-old boy's been grabbed, an American citizen. Now, at the time, one of the interesting things, too, also was Haiti is a revolving door of kidnappings. I mean, we're working them constantly. Bad guys don't know they're grabbing Americans. And they think they're grabbing Haitian citizens, which is the case in most kidnapping industries around the world. Most of the Americans that get grabbed most of the time are dual nationals. So they think they're grabbing Haitians. Now, how could this be such a big deal in Haiti? Why is this going on there stronger than in many other places, other than the fact they got other problems? Do you guys know how many countries in the world you're a citizen of if you're born there? Like, I know my accent doesn't betray it. I grew up in Iowa. I'm from a small town in Iowa, son of Richard and Joyce Voss, Mount Pleasant, Iowa. I worked here in New York City for 14 years, but there were more people in the building that worked here in New York City than in the town I grew up in. But I figured, you know, you're born in this country. It's just the way of the world. It's just a natural law, because that happened here. It must be that way everywhere. Do you know how many countries? Does anybody know? It's argued that there are 2 developed nations only, US and Canada. No country in Europe are you a citizen of if you're born there. Australia, no. England, no. They'd think that's funny, that you think you're entitled to citizenship just because you were born there. It's one of the great things about the United States. I'm an unabashed American patriot. I'm a fan of this country. I don't think this country's perfect. There's still stuff that we're working our way through, but this is one of the cool things about the United States. Because Haitian moms understand that one of the best gifts they could possibly give their child on their child's literal first birthday is a gift of American citizenship and everything that comes with that. So Haitian moms are finding their way into American soil, legal or illegal, so a child can be an American citizen, which is a cool thing. So in this particular case, 12-year-old boy's an American citizen. His father's not. But his father knows that his son's an American. He goes to the U.S. Embassy for help. The embassy says, the FBI is going to be there to help you. Now, I don't know what he thought of when they told him that, or what he imagined would happen next in his mind. I can only imagine that he figured maybe about 15 minutes later, he'd hear a on the front door, and bang, these guys are there. Maybe even got FBI hats on. But instead, about 15 minutes later, he gets a call from some guy in Washington, D.C., named Chris Voss. And he literally says to me on the phone, "You're in Washington, D.C., how you gonna help me?" How long do I have before he hangs up the phone? You're me, what do you say? Seriously, how long have I got? 10 seconds, maybe. You guys know how long it takes to make a first impression? 7 to 10 seconds, same amount of time, exact same amount of time. You know what it takes to make a good first impression? Do you know what the other people are looking for from you? And I'm here to tell you, everybody you deal with, every person in any commercial transaction, every person that walks through any of your buildings is saying that exact same thing to themselves about you, and you have the same amount of time that I had. And what are they looking for from that impression? Do you know? Trust and competency. Can I trust you with the things that are important to me? Can I trust you with creating a space for my company? Can I trust you with the future that's coming at us in the next 6 months to 5 years so that we don't go the way of the dodo? You guys know there's a 40% turnover in a Fortune 500 every 10 years, right? Companies know that if they don't do it right, they will become extinct. And what they're trusting you with are their hopes and dreams for the future. What was his father in Haiti trying to get me to reclaim for him? But what is a child other than the hopes and dreams of the family's future? And now maybe they're not hanging up literally on you as fast as he was going to hang up on me, but it's the same amount of time. The rules don't change. How much time you have to get through to them. So what do you say? You're me, what do you say? You're you, what do you say? What do you say? Do you want to get your son out? No. I know what I'm doing. I've done this before. Trying to establish competency, right? In a case I'm going to tell you about in a little bit, the first time I was in the Philippines, I took that route. First time I was in the Philippines, working in kidnapping. They walked me into a room that literally everybody other than the president of the Philippines is in. Cabinet secretaries, head of the police, and it's a national police. So the head of the police is not the local PD, it's a national police. Secretary of Defense. The only reason the president's not there is because the president's personal advisor is. I'm there, I'm the guy from the FBI. FBI's lead international kidnapping negotiator is the FBI's subject matter expert on kidnapping. I was a representative for the FBI to the National Security Council. I represented the US government in the G7 meetings on kidnapping. I was a US government's rep. They walked me into the room, basically, for all intents and purposes, say this to me also. And so what do? I tell them, I've been an FBI agent for so many years. Won the Attorney General's Award for Excellence in Law Enforcement, the FBI Agents Association Award for Distinguished and Exemplary Service. Joint Terrorist Task Force in New York City for 14 years. Head negotiator for the City of New York for the FBI. Now, not only have I trained at Quantico and Scotland Yard, I write the book that they trained from at Quantico. I haven't just studied it, I write it. And I can tell you that when I laid out my extensive qualifications, they were suitably unimpressed. They may as well have yawned right in my face. Why is that? Because your resume, regardless of how impressive it is, correlates loosely with whether or not you know what's going on. If a resume coordinated exactly with whether or not you could do the job, there would never be a bad hire and no one would ever lose their job. There would never be a bad fit. So I've done this wrong before and had it be useless, a waste of time. What did I say to the father in Haiti? Here's what I said. All right, Haitian kidnappers are not killing kidnap victims these days. I realize that's really stupid because Haitian kidnappers kill each other at the drop of a hat, but they're not killing kidnap victims. Now today is Thursday, and Haitian kidnappers love to party on Saturday night. So if you say the things I want you to say, when I want you to say them, we will have your son out by late Friday, early Saturday morning. And he said, tell me what you want me to do. And we had his son out Saturday morning. Now let's break down a little bit of what I said and what I didn't say. And I would ask you, did it take me less time to say that than it took me to lay out my resume? You're under time pressure? Understand what actually takes the most time and how effective it is. What didn't I do? One of the key things that I did not do. And it's hugely it's obvious once I point it out. I didn't try to get him to say yes. Not once. Yes is the most useless word out there. We don't even bother with it. If we need to close something, I never use it to close, ever. It's a useless word. There are three kinds of yeses: commitment, confirmation, and counterfeit. But on the flip side of it is, you all got a bad Jones to yes. You're addicted to it bad. This is going to be hard for you to get out of it because typically, first of all, you bring somebody in, you said, would you like to have wonderful office space? Would you like to retain your employees for years? Would you like to have great terms? Take a look at our proposal. Every yes is a hook. Everybody knows yes is a hook. Everybody knows there's a hook buried in every yes. And the crazy thing about that, this is a word, it depends upon what side we're on, how we react to it. Because hearing it, we want to hear it. Yes has been described as one of the most beautiful words in the language, the most beautiful word in the language. And there's a story, John Lennon began to fall in love with Yoko Ono when he went to an art exhibit she had. And it was kind of an obstacle course thing. You crawled over stuff and you climbed up stuff and you came to a ladder and you climbed this rickety ladder. And at the top of a ladder was a telescope and you looked through the telescope and a little bitty letters on a far wall was the word, yes. So we love to hear it. But we're completely blinded as to how we start to react instantly when somebody tries to get us to say it. Phone rings, you pick it up, and the voice says, have you got a few minutes to talk? What's your gut reaction? Yeah. Everybody's gut reaction is no. Seriously, is there anybody in this room that when somebody says, have you got a few minutes to talk, you go, thank God you called, yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Yes. Just ask me anything. Every time I say yes, I'm going to feel wonderful. No. Where's the hook? What's the catch? What am I letting myself in for? Where's this going? Have you got a few minutes to talk? As only an individual example, first question you ask yourself, if I have a few minutes to talk, do I want to talk to you? If I have a few minutes to talk and I want to talk to you, do I want to talk about what you want to talk about? There isn't one of us who hasn't received a call from our significant other, man or woman. Man gets a call from his significant other, most important person in the world to him. She says, can we talk? And he thinks, well, I like talking to you, but I don't think I want to talk about what you want to talk about. Then after that is, how long is a few minutes? My next younger sister calls me on the phone. Have you got a few minutes to talk? It's always 45. And that's usually when she has a 45-minute to an hour drive in front of her, and she wants to talk to me, which means at me, which means I don't say a word for 45 minutes. And I got another male colleague. He's an attorney. He's got to think stuff through. He's got a big, long 45-minute agenda, stuff he wants to walk me all the way through. Have you got a few minutes to talk? It's 45. The last question after that is, how do I get off the phone? Yes is a problem. Look around. Watch people. About 2 years ago, my director of operations is my son, chief negotiation officer. The Black Swan Group cuts all our deals. He's a great negotiator. You would be too if you've been dealing with me since you were 3 years old, right? He's the only kid in high school who had a curfew. He's like, you're a hostage negotiator. You're putting a deadline on me. You talk people out of deadlines. He never could understand it, so he just learned how to talk me out of deadlines. But a couple years ago, he still wasn't absolutely convinced that yes made people uncomfortable. And so we're coming out of a building over here in Jersey, a client that we're teaching. And he says, I just don't think people are always get worried about saying yes. And we're at the security guard who that morning had let us in. So he'd given us our passes. He was sitting there at work on duty. He had a uniform on, said Allied Security. So I looked at the security guard, and I said, do you work for Allied Security? And he went, yes. And I looked at my son and I went, what do you want from me? Guy's sitting here in uniform, Allied Security. He's got his guard up because I asked him if he worked for Allied Security. And here's to give you an idea of how much of a problem this is going to be for you to get out of that. And this is a problem because your neurons are wired to do this. Everybody make a fist with either hand. Put your right thumb up, put your left forefinger out. Some of you natural New Yorkers, make sure that's the forefinger, please. Now switch. Switch back. Pick it up. Come on, don't give up. Come on, come on. He just had a stroke. Somebody call the ambulance. Was what I asked you to do complicated? No. Was it difficult? Yes. The cool thing about that, though, is, and some of you had trouble getting that forefinger out in the first place, that was actually the creation of a new neural synapse in your brain. It's kind of a cool thing to think about. And how come I can do this? Practice. The synapses that fire together wire together. It doesn't take that much practice to build a new skill, but you're going to have trouble getting out of yes because your yes neurons are going to fire. And you're going to think, I'm just trying to get a yes because I'm trying to be respectful and appreciative. And I'm not the person that was selling them swampland in Florida or the building that's on the African burial ground that we don't want them to know about, or whatever the problem is. It doesn't matter how sincere you are. What happens if, as a sincere, decent human being, you try to give a battered child a hug? They flinch anyway, right? We've been pounded with this yes stuff for years. And just take a look around. Watch your own reactions. Take my offer on this to you as a hypothesis. Take anything that I say as a hypothesis. What does that mean? What's your obligation? You got to test it out. Maybe there's enough that what I said is just worth going out and finding out and seeing if you see it at all, seeing if it's true. You should be worried about your addiction to yes. One of the single biggest contributors to people not getting back to you on the phone. How many of you have people that are not getting back to you on the phone? We call them non-responders. There was a CEO of a company that we were interacting with recently. We gave him an instantaneous fix for this, which I will give to you. And he sent us an email back and he said, I'm 12 for 12 on my non-responders. All 12 got back to me instantly. Now, if the CEO of the company is 12 for 12, how many non-responders are going on in his company and how much is that costing them? Because your non-responders are the proposals, they're the deals that you're chasing. And there's an old saying in business, it's not a bad thing to not get the deal. It's a bad thing to take a long time to not get the deal. That's what's killing you. And the non-responders are the people that you're chasing and chasing and chasing. You know how many non-responders I have or anybody in my company has? 0. And I will happily tell you that I'm a non-responder to a number of people that are chasing us. Because they're not dialing in properly to me. They're not taking the time to pay attention or give me this yes nonsense. Or they're sending me an email that's a page long. How many of you like reading long emails? How many of you send them? It's the same thing. It's crazy how different it is depending upon what side you are on something and how oblivious we could be. We hate long emails. We send them. You hate them, you send them. So what do you do instead? Besides stopping this, what do I want you to do? There's 2 things I want you to do. Here's the first one. Recognize this guy? Some of you do, some of you don't. Jack Welch, author of Jack and Winning, alongside with his wife, Susie. They're coming through Los Angeles a couple of years ago. They're hustling their book, The Real Life MBA. I go to the book signing Jack Welch is at. I want him to come speak the negotiation course I'm teaching at the time at USC. How many people try to get Jack Welch to say yes to something at that book signing? Pretty much every one of them, right? They're going to come up there, Jack, how are you? My wife makes a great meatloaf. You want to come to the house tonight? God knows what they're going to ask him. Jack, I got this invention. Would you pose with it? How many people are going to ask him to try to say yes? That day, that week, how many people try to get Jack Welch to say yes to something? You're me, you come up to Jack Welch, what do you say? And how much time do you have? You maybe got 7 seconds. And even if you get to the second response after him, there's 300 people standing behind you in line. They walk you up there. Before you get to them, they say, "What's your name?" "Chris." Write on a piece of paper so Jack doesn't get it wrong. Really, that's so you don't talk to him. And then you keep moving. On top of that, have they patted me down? Do they know whether or not I've got a gun? Have I been through a metal detector? As a matter of fact, I do have a gun, but he's not in trouble for me. They don't have my identification. They don't know I'm not going to hurt him. I'm going to get within arm's length of Jack Welch. Action is quicker than reaction. They can't stop me from doing anything I want to do. This is the dilemma of bodyguards. You get within arm's length of the target, you can only stop them after they've done it. You can grab them after they've killed your target, but you can't stop them. I'm going to get within arm's length of Jack Welch. I could do whatever I want. I could walk up to him and kiss him right on the lips if I want to, right? He was falling asleep. I want to make sure he's waked up. He's going to wake up screaming in the middle of the night time. Ah! I walk up to Jack Welch, and this is what I say to him. Is it a ridiculous idea for you to come and speak at the negotiation course that I teach at USC? He looks up and to the left, and gets this really intense scowl on his face. And he just freezes. And I think to myself, I just killed Jack Welch. He had a stroke. He's so furious. And he's going to die. And the security's going to tackle me and drag me on cuffs. I'm going to say, but I'm an FBI agent. We don't care. He killed Jack Welch. So initially, when he doesn't die, I'm relieved. But he still doesn't move. But finally, he unfreezes. And he looks at me and he says, this is my personal assistant's name. This is a special Twitter account we have set up to communicate with her. I will call her and tell her who you are and what you want. I think we're going to be in Los Angeles in the fall. If we are, we'll come in and speak at your class. Calibrated no is worth at least 5 yeses. No joke. Because think of all the things that he thought through and went ahead and answered for me by triggering the no. Don't be horrified of no. As a matter of fact, you'll be shocked at how much farther, how much faster you can get as soon as you start going for no instead of yes. Because when people say no, they feel safe and protected. Again, data of situations. There's supposedly teenagers know how to negotiate with parents because they don't take no for an answer. It's not teenagers and parents. It's humans and humans. And teenagers have learned that after a parent says no, they'll probably listen. When my now director of operations was 17 and he said, "Dad, can I?" I would say, "No." And then I would say, "All right, so what was it that you wanted again?" Because I felt good. I'd already said no. I was willing to listen. We do this constantly. We do this around the world. We do this in every industry. There are stereotypes out there. There are stereotypes that Asians and Arabs will not say no. We get them to say no all the time. Theoretically, an Arab's version of no is inshallah, which again, like, it's all this cross-cultural negotiation. If an Arab says inshallah to you, you're in trouble. What kind of shape are you in if an American says, "I'll try"? It ain't happening, is it? There's an American version, there's an Arab version. Why? Because they're just people. They're using different words for the exact same things. People are people across the planet. And this is what happens. Don't even bother with yes. We don't bother with it. Any yes question you have can be flipped over to, are you against? Do you disagree? Is it a ridiculous idea? Have you given up on? Is our just short of perfect response to the non-responder. Have you given up on doing business with the Black Swan Group? Have you given up on XYZ? You send that email out and understand it's after a relationship that's been going for a while and they've stopped responding to you. They've stopped responding to you for 2 reasons. They're losing influence on their side and the way you're communicating with them. And principally the way you're communicating with them is to try to get them to say yes or sending them really long emails. And the more yeses you get out of people, the more it erodes and is a toxin on the relationship and a lack of trust. Until finally they just stop getting back to you because all you're doing is you're pitching. You're trying to get them to say yes to stuff. Have you given up on? And you send that email, or you can do it in a text message also, sit there and wait because you're going to get a response in anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. I'm not kidding. No joke. Try it and see. Humor me. Sit there for 5 to 10 minutes and wait for the response. We've had people on a regular basis tell people that have not gotten back to them for 2 months responded to, have you given up on less than 5 minutes? Now, what do you do then? There's a little bit of a problem because you're not always going to get to where you want to go with just have you given, with the no oriented. You got to get them to say that's right. Not you're right. They say you're right when you've been pitching and they want you to shut up. You're right is secret code for please stop talking. We sort of joke around in my company, we say you're right is code for F you. You know who it's really, I want to maintain a relationship with you, but please, please, I can't take it anymore. Please stop talking. You know who the world's greatest practitioners of your right are? Husbands. The 2-millimeter shift is that's right. The 2-millimeter shift is describing to them, and this is what Mike was talking about earlier. Discover what's important to them. How do you know when you've discovered it? When they say, that's right. Not you're right. They say you're right when you're pitching. They say that's right when you reiterate it back to them what the world looks like to them. And he also talked about something called the metrics that you never imagined would be possible. Those are what we call black swans. There's stuff here that you will never know unless they tell you. And they will only tell you after they've said that's right, and they will then correct you and let you know what matters to them, which is a lot quicker way than laying out a 10-point value proposition when only 3 of those 10 matter. Because all the time that you spent on the 7 of the 10 that don't matter are wasted time. And is what everybody else is doing to them. Does it work on sociopaths? This is an American that was kidnapped in the Philippines, and this is a sociopath that's got him. And this is a raping, killing, murdering, head chopping terrorist, straight out of the movies. And this is the negotiator that I'm coaching. Now, our sociopath is calling for $10 million of war damages for 500 years of oppression, from the Spanish to the Japanese to the Americans. It's a smart move because it makes $10 million sound like not that much money. Fishing harm, fishing rights violation, economic harm, everything that's happened over the last 500 years. Now, I realize right now you're tuning this out because you've never been in a discussion when someone was mad at you and they were bringing up things from the past that didn't have anything to do with you, did you? People don't do that. That's just crazy. Only terrorists do that. So we get into this and we go back and forth, and finally we got to hit the reset button. This is what we refer to as the birth of the that's right moment, because I coach my guy to say, today all we're going to do is get the sociopath to say that's right. And you're going to summarize everything that he said, and especially the bad stuff about us. That's where you're going to have trouble, because you only want to talk about the good stuff about you. But from their perspective, the bad stuff about us, and lay it on thick, because in this stuff, this tactical application of empathy, this tactical application of FBI empathy, if you're not laying it on thick, you're not laying it on thick enough. So we get on the phone with this guy. I'm coaching a negotiator, and I coached all over the world. That's what I did. I coached negotiations. And my guy lays it all out. 500 years of oppression, Spanish to the Japanese to the Americans, atrocities under blackjack Pershing in the 1900s, violation of the fishing rights, economic harm, injustices, unfair. You're not Filipinos anyway, you're Moros. And you're being oppressed today by a puppet government in the Philippines that's held up by the last colonial power, which is the Americans. And he goes on and on and on. And finally, he gets done, there's a moment of silence, and the sociopath on the other end of the line says, that's right. And in that moment, we went from $10 million to 0. The ransom was never mentioned again through the duration of the kidnapping. It went away. It was just gone. Kidnapping took a couple more twists and turns. A couple months later, the American walks away. Jeff Schilling, the American, just walks away. Local farmer sees him walking down a dirt road. knows he's got to be Jeffrey Schilling because there ain't that many black Americans walking around the south of the Philippines. Says, you must be Jeffrey Schilling. He says, I am. They fly him back to Manila. The military, they hold a big press conference. President of the Philippines on one side, Secretary of Defense on the other side. Secretary of Defense says, in a daring rescue operation, we have rescued the American Jeffrey Schilling. We shot all these terrorists and they were mortally wounded. They went off into the brush and died. That's why we don't have any bodies to show you. But it was a daring rescue operation. Daring operation. They gave him a ride. 2 days ago, there was a daring rescue operation at Newark Airport where I got picked up and driven into the city. It was a daring operation. My driver was a daring rescuer. I'm back in the Philippines about 3 weeks afterwards. Another kidnapping has gotten kicked off, and I connect up with my guy, and he says, you're not going to believe who called me on the phone. I don't know. The terrorist, the sociopath. He still knows my guy by his undercover name, he's got his undercover number. What'd he say? Have you been promoted yet? I don't know what it was he said to me on the phone. I was going to kill the American. You're really good. They should promote you. He hangs up. What's he saying in that moment? I felt respected by you. I'd deal with you again. That's what he was saying. He was telling him that if they had to deal with each other again, he felt respected enough that he would be willing to deal with them as a peer-to-peer basis. Understand the terrorist got nothing. Nothing. His organization ended up in a shambles as a result of this. And he was still willing to deal with the guy that got the dats right out of him. Everybody you deal with, regardless of the outcome, should feel that way when they get done interacting with you. And it takes less time to get there than any of these other approaches. You want to talk about finding out about the other side, find out what's important to them. You want to increase the percentages of tours to people wanting proposals from you or letting you know what they actually need to make it work for them. This is the way that you get that. This is the way that you get that. It's insane. Deal after deal after deal that we're coaching. The pivot points, not just a pivot point, but the leaps forward in the negotiations comes as a result of what we refer to as the that's right moment. So in a second, I'm getting ready to take some questions, a few moments for questions. If and only if you want more, besides the book, we got a complimentary newsletter, comes out every Tuesday. Short and sweet. It's free. It's a good price. If it's free, I'll take 3, is what an old friend of mine used to say. Only if you want more. Only if you want more. Some people really like it because it helps them get tuned up and takes them through the week. The short, sweet articles are not a lot to digest. By the way, differences between men and women in negotiation. Women pick our negotiation style up faster than the men do. So guys, all I'm here to tell you is watch out. Because ladies are getting ready to pass you by. Make sure it's all one word. If you decide you want it, only if you decide you want it. All one word, don't let your spell check change it to 2 words. You'll get a text box back. You'll be able to sign up. All right, I got a couple moments for a couple questions. I'm going to be around for book signing and more stuff afterwards. If there are any quick questions, and then I'll show you a short video. We'll be done. Do we have questions? There was a 9th negotiation principle that you guys brought kind of after you left the FBI. What is that? There's a certain dynamic of 3 that keeps occurring on a regular basis in either the process, the number of interactions. Be interesting in human nature how important the word 3 is, or the dynamic of 3. So what we refer to this as a combination of 2 things. If someone has ever said yes to you in any circumstance, you need to get them to say yes 3 times in the same conversation to know for sure that it's not a counterfeit yes. If it's a counterfeit yes, everybody knows what tells are when somebody does something physically that lets you know that there's a problem with what they just said. People lying with yes to you, giving you the counterfeit yes because they're pumping you for information, because they're not gonna take your space. They just want to see what your terms are, so they can use your terms to hammer somebody else, which is really common. They will never be able to say yes to you twice in a row because you love yes so much that they've only ever had to say it once. And they'll flinch hard on the second yes. So if you got to shake your yeses real hard when you do get to them. You got to rattle them really hard. That's principally what that is, the ninth skill, the application of the dynamic of 3. Any other hands? I'll show you the video. I have a very important video on preparation. It's critical. You may have gathered that some of this negotiation approach requires preparation. Not a lot. About a third of you in the room like to shoot from the hip. You like to wing it. About a third of you in the room love to prepare like crazy. There's a correlation between preparation and success. Our prep model is not extensive, but it does require some preparation. So this is a video that underscores the importance of preparation.
A proof of life video, that's what they're called. The ultimate good news, bad news story, if you're ever unfortunate enough to see one. Today's high-stakes rescue mission in Colombia ended a drama that has been dragging on for years. Chris Voss is the former FBI lead international kidnapping negotiator, and he worked on the...
So in terms of preparation, what are my preparation issues here? Might be a little hard to see, but my hair is sticking out on the side. Now, this is the first time I was ever on CNN. I'm really excited to be on CNN. Again, son of Richard and Joyce Voss, Mount Pleasant, Iowa. 7,000 people in my town. There are more people watching CNN than in my whole town. So I'm all excited. I'm going in. I'm going to be on CNN. There's stuff I want to know. Do they have a green room? And is it green? They have a green room. It's not green. But it's kind of cool because there are always interesting people in there. Then after you go to the green room, you know where you go next? Makeup. And I remember the first time I was sitting in that makeup chair, and the pretty makeup ladies putting makeup all over my face. And I'm thinking to myself, my father's rolling over in his grave right now. His son wearing makeup is just not something that he expected. So you get done with makeup, and you know where you go after that? You go into a room, which is where they're going to film it. It's a large, dark closet. You're not in a studio with Anderson. The light shines right in your eyes. You look right below the light. They say, that's where Anderson is going to be. You talk to that. And then down to the left is a monitor. And they say, the monitor is going to go live. When we go live, it'll come on. It'll show the programming while we're on. Do you want it off or on? And I'm like, leave that on. I never saw me on CNN before. I want to watch me on TV. Leave that baby on. So we have just gone live. I'm looking down at the monitor, and I see that my hair is sticking out. And I am perplexed. And the biggest problem here is the monitor is a mirror image, and I don't know which side of my head the hair is sticking out. Which is really why I look perplexed. Because I'm going to do something about this, I got to know where the problem is. So I'm sitting there, you know, I'm a negotiator. I generate options. I figure stuff out. So I got to figure this out. So this is the first thing I do.
This case from the beginning until his retirement just last year. He joins me now. Chris, this has got to be kind of...
I don't know why I thought moving my head around was going to help. Maybe make the hair wave a little bit, and I could feel it. You can see from the look on my face, I'm like, nah, it didn't help. So I'm sitting there trying to decide what to do. What kind of a move can I make? Like, I can't really go with two hands because, I look like Larry Moe and Curly are the Three Stooges, and, and then, like, what if I try and it doesn't stay down? I probably can't lick my hand, go like that. So I got to figure out what I could do. So I'm sitting there trying to decide what to do.
A remarkable day for you to be so...
That's not fair. Anderson's hair is perfect. I know the producer went like, hey, let's go split screen. Make sure everybody sees for sure that Voss's hair is a mess. Anderson Cooper's hair, he could be in a hurricane. His hair would look perfect, right? That's not fair. I feel like the really heavy guy in the diet commercial. This is what you look like beforehand. So I'm sitting there, I'm trying to decide what to do. You know, when can I make my move? Because, like, my mom's watching this. The people that she in her bridge club are watching this, and they're going to say, your son doesn't even know how to comb his hair. So when can I go? It's like that jump rope game, a double Dutch. Like, when are you going to get in? When are you going to go? When are you going to get in? And so,
closely involved in this, and to finally see it come to fruition.
Damn it. So the point of the story, though, is, you know, they didn't ban me from CNN after that. You know, we finished the interview went fine, they asked me to come back. You'll make mistakes with the people that you deal with. You'll make mistakes. You don't have to be perfect. An approach of respect and appreciation and getting people to say that's right and making them feel heard will carry you through the mistakes that you make. You will close more deals. You'll put more people out. You'll have longer-term, great relationships with the people that you do business with. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand up, please. Everybody stand up. You guys remember, at the beginning, I showed you a picture of the men in black, right? Well, those guys worked for me, actually. Remember the little red flashy thing that they had? Everybody look this way. All right, after today, everybody that you deal with is going to feel respected and appreciated by you. You'll find that your conversations will go quicker, and you're going to learn more about the people on the other side. It'll be more satisfying. You'll connect more with people who want to know that they're appreciated as colleagues, as family members, as friends. Thank you for spending time with me at the end of the afternoon. It's been an absolute privilege to be here with VTS. Thank you very much.